When I first saw Prabhupada, I wasn't a devotee, although I had chanted Hare Krishna and I'd come in contact with the name, the holy name. And I went to a temple. I was living in France, and I went to a temple in Switzerland, in Geneva, because there were posters, Srila Prabhupada's coming to the temple. Well, it was just a house, actually. And I went with a friend, and he said, let's go see the spiritual master. So we went along. We went straight through the house into the back garden, which was quite small. There were very few devotees there. And Prabhupada was doing a fire sacrifice in the garden. And, I wasn't a devotee. I was like, ooh. Walked in, and he just looked over at me, looked straight into my eyes. I mean, I was like, and I had been on a spiritual search for years, looking at this guru and that guru. And he looked at me, and how to describe it? It was like he had pierced all my material coverings and got to me, the soul. And that experience was, in one sense, devastating, because my ego was, I was kind of filled with shame, and I could see all these awful coverings I had of the material energy, and it was like, and I just wanted the whole to open up in the ground and disappear. And at the same time, I was just filled with just complete delight, and I can't explain it really, because I knew he was my spiritual master, and I'd been looking for him. So it was mixed like that. So that was my first time I saw Prabhupada. So when Prabhupada came another time to the manor, my daughter Rasalila was 1.5 years old, and Prabhupada was sitting on his Vyasa sand, and devotees were gathered around him, and I couldn't get near to Prabhupada, for different reasons. I mean, I was a woman. So I would send my daughter on like my emissary, So I gave her a yellow rose, because we knew Prabhupada liked yellow rose. And she went running up to Prabhupada and gave him the rose. And he, as he does, he just beamed at her, and he looked so delighted. And I really got the sense he loved all of us, but children, he just really connected with them in such a delightful way. But the other interesting thing which I just thought of before, was at that time there was this devotee who I knew very well, and he was a really a rascal devotee. I mean, he did the most terrible things, dressed as a devotee. He was a devotee, but a bit crazy, and he did things that would have made Prabhupada really angry, I know. And he got put in prison for some of the stupid things he did. But for some amazing miracle, he got let out of prison, and he came to the manor that day, just for the weekend, so he could see Prabhupada. So he was in there, and Prabhupada, we know, knows everything he knows what's going on. And he kept looking at this devotee and smiling and giving him so much mercy. I was just like, whoa, and from that I just saw the compassion Srila Prabhupada had for everyone. He loved him as much as everyone. I was just absolutely, I was amazed. So the last time Srila Prabhupada came in 1977 to the manor, he was very, very ill, and he would come down in a palanquin, and he'd just sit there. He didn't speak. He probably couldn't speak. He didn't speak. And we would just, every morning he would come down for weeks, and we'd just watch him. And so many devotees around me we discussed it, how they had had a certain thought or a question or a prayer, and Prabhupada answered it within their heart. But he never spoke. It was just, he would sit there and it was almost like he was giving a last message to all his disciples. It was really, really powerful. Then after that, when Prabhupada was leaving for the airport, I was really fortunate to jump in a van with some devotees with my daughter and get to the airport, because Prabhupada was leaving, which I hadn't experienced that before at the airport. Anyway, I was there again with my daughter, Rasalila, and Prabhupada was in a wheelchair and he was being wheeled towards the departure gate, you know, small thing in those days. And so I sent again my emissary, Rasalila, went with a yellow rose, and she went running up. But the point about this is that the whole time he was so grave and serious. So that's the thing with this was when she took him the yellow, she ran with him the yellow rose, he took it and he beamed that huge oceanic smile. Just like suddenly there was this huge smile that we hadn't seen for weeks. And I knew that was the last time I was going to see Srila Prabhupada. It was so clear, and it was just the most amazing vision to hold, that wonderful smile. I think one of the most outstanding qualities for me right from the beginning was the fact that he had absolutely no false ego at all. None. I'd never met anyone like that, probably never will, but yet there was no ego at all. And that was probably the main thing. And then there was just, I mean, he was like a father. He was a spiritual father, but he was so like a father, and we just felt we couldn't live without him, really. He was his compassion, his caring, for the devotees, just all those qualities of the pure devotee. So many.
Je anilo premadana koruna prachu